Welcome to the Merge, everybody. This is Geo once again. Glad to have you guys join us. Today, I wanted to go a little bit different and talk a little bit about sports. So for those of you that have been begging me, pleading for us to talk about sports, today's your lucky day. So I have my boy Anthony joining us. If you've seen us, our first few episodes, he was on there with us. And I'm glad to have you on again, my man.
Yeah, bro.
We're going to talk NBA playoffs today, dude.
So a lot of NBA stuff.
It
wasn't sports in general. It's more NBA specific. So we got to let the people know, like, right off the bat. NBA is what we're talking about now because that's the biggest thing.
Not NFL.
That'll
MLS.
be a different podcast.
Yeah, that'll be another day. But we have the fever, man. We have the playoffs are going on as we speak. So, man, what have you noticed so far from these games, dude?
The games have been really entertaining, really high scoring too. And obviously, us growing up playing basketball and like understanding the different eye levels, right, of playing in different gyms. You always had that one gym that you would never miss at because there's the wall's a little bit closer and you have a little bit better depth perception. What I've been seeing is that shooters are not missing in the bubble. And it's because you're not in these 20, 25,000 person arenas that all of a sudden the depth perception that you have from the corner, from the top of the key, from the elbow, like you see better on the court. The sight lines are so much better. And we're looking at it even just here with Miami with Duncan Robinson.
Jesus.
Like, dude hasn't missed. And when you get elite shooters that are the best in the world and their ability to just zone in and be like, oh, there's not 20,000 people here that I have to like almost like shield my eyes from to be able to shoot. It changed the game. So the offense has been incredible. For the people saying that there's been lacking defense, like, just shut up, get out of here. Like if you want to watch defensive basketball, which the last series of, the last game of the series between Miami and Indy was the game in the 90s or whatever it was, like, I was kind of bored by that. Like, we've evolved. Yeah, we've evolved as consumers of the NBA to expect 100-point games.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why do I want to watch a game 85-74? Why do I want to watch
Heat
that?
Knicks, 1998.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to watch that. Like, I want to watch 30 points from, the best player. I want to watch 10 dimes from the best facilitator. Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see exciting.
I would agree with you partly, and I'll say partly because I do feel like the numbers today are a bit inflated. And the reason I say that is because I don't think necessarily that the skill level, although it has improved. I mean, we see some of these big guys doing amazing things. Even the guards, like the moves that they're making now were not being made even 7-8 years ago. But I think the biggest issue, and this is just my opinion, is the refereeing of the games. I'm not a big fan of every other possession there's a foul. There's like these little tic-tac fouls that are being called where, man, if we're not calling those in the pickup games, why are we calling them in the league?
But we don't call a lot of good things in the pickup games, though. There's a lot of backcourt. There's a lot of double dribbles. There's a couple of Euro steps that may be a little bit too long. So it's not a good barometer for pickup games. But I do understand what you're saying, where you have James Harden going to the line 18 times a game.
Yeah.
And I get it. He's probably one of the best foul drawers that we have in NBA history. Right, from the guard position.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think there's been anybody better. Maybe Wilt Chamberlain, somebody like that can just is so much bigger than everybody, and you have to
foul him.
Jump on his back. Shaq, just try to rip him down at any point. The ability that he has to get into the lane and do this move, right? Like that's the one move he's got that he'll get 7 fouls just on this.
And you're trying to get out of his way, and he still finds a way. Like, you're doing this, and he finds a way to get you.
Exactly. He initiates the contact, which is why I find how the referees ref James Harden better than anybody else is because he's the aggressor in all of these, right? Like, he's the one who's going out and trying to hit you and then get an and one, or hit you and try to fade away with the jumper. It's incredible to me that Giannis as well, LeBron, like, it's obvious what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Key players, marquee players get calls.
Yeah.
And that's what it's been from the genesis of the NBA.
Always.
There's no reason. Like, J.R. Smith is not going to get the same call that LeBron is, right? That Kawhi is, that Paul George is.
Yeah, no.
That's just built into the fabric of the game. That's why Tom Brady gets calls in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, that's why, name a scrub quarterback who probably wouldn't get the clipping, the low hit on the quarterback just because, keep it moving.
Every Dolphins quarterback since then.
Probably, yes. Yeah. That's probably true, but the reffing has been an interesting case study because when you look at what just what's going on in the bubble and how much offense is being played, like we've seen games. Nuggets and Jazz has been an amazing series, and we'll get to that series in a little bit.
Yeah.
But the amount of points that are being scored in those games, like, it's high-flying action. So if you're a referee, and I don't know if you've ever reffed before. Have you?
Yeah.
You have? Okay. So I've never actually put on a whistle, put on the zebra Foot Locker outfit, and gone out and done something. So I've only screamed at refs at the JCC, at different places, in college, high school, college, whatever. But to me, when you have so much offense, right, and the game is so up-tempo and fast-paced, it's difficult to try and sit and get every call right. Like you've ref before at what level?
High school.
Okay, so at high school, and the game is fast,
But
right?
Like fast, yeah.
It's interesting, and you can attest to this too. Like when you go from playing middle school basketball to high school basketball, it is lightning.
Oh
quick.
yeah. It's a different world.
The moment you step in as a freshman versus the time you leave high school as a senior, the game shifts completely. Because when you're a freshman, you're like, these guys are men, and I don't know if I can be here playing, right? But then by the time that you get to be a senior, you're looking around saying, oh, you know what? Like, the game has slowed down a lot. So imagine ratcheting that up times infinity and watching the best players on the planet play and having to know that, okay, Russell Westbrook or James Harden or whomever is going to drive down the lane, and I got to be open 50 times a game to make sure that he's getting the right calls and stuff.
It's not just that, too. I mean, to your point, 100%. Like, the speed of the game is so hard to judge. But I don't want to put it all on the refs because there's a rule book. Like, they're just trying to make sure that they're doing their job adequately. They're just trying to make sure, okay, these are the new rules, like that freedom of movement thing where you can't even touch the guy now.
Right.
They're just trying to do their job, So I don't really fault them for that. But there's a few guys, I won't say their names, that I know when I'm gonna watch this guy ref one of my team's games. I love the Heat. I already know, okay, we're gonna be in foul trouble in the first quarter.
Right.
It's gonna be a tough game, and usually it happens that way. But yeah, like you said, the speed of the game nowadays is just so much faster. Like we're seeing, let's start talking about Denver and Utah. The emergence of both guys, Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell, like they were always great, but now I think they're reaching that superstar status. Rule book or not, like these guys are just putting up points. The moves that these guys are making, like, and it's not that the defense is bad. You have world-class defenders, the best defenders in the world, playing defense, but it's just like these guys are just making tough shots, man. Like, what are you supposed to do? And the pick and roll nowadays, you have to pick your poison. Because usually they're going to use the most effective players in the pick and roll. No longer is it the four-man who's going to maybe hit the mid-range and he's going to maybe make it 32% of the time. No, you have 7-foot players like Nikola Jokic who's he'll hit a 1 foot, a point guard, right? A 1 foot off the wrong foot step back in your face, against the past season's defensive player of the year.
Right.
Like, what are you supposed to do with that? So I think these guys have just evolved so much where we've come to expect these high scoring games where I think the Heat game was like 99-84, and I was like, whoa, this is a throwback.
Yeah, like, what is this? This is usually the third quarter. Like, we usually have another quarter to go after this score.
It usually is, but to your point earlier, you said something about depth perception. I totally agree with that. I've noticed, I mean, the few times I had the opportunity in high school to play at the American Airlines Arena, those were the probably worst shooting games I've ever had. Because I was not used to
the vastness.
It felt huge. And it wasn't that much bigger than our high school court because our high school court was actually pretty big. But behind the rim at our high school, we had the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So as soon as we came back and we had our next game, I mean, I was on fire because I was so used to that. So I just think it's just so many different things going on. Yes, the offense is better. These guys are more skilled. The rules have actually helped them because you can count on, if you're a star or if you're an all-star, you're going to get 8 to 10 free throws.
They've been skewed for offense.
Yeah.
Like, we're not mincing words. It's the NFL, the NBA knows that points sell.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why in the NFL, defensive players are now saying you can't touch the quarterback, you can't hit somebody over the middle, you can't do this, you can't do that. Yeah, because we want to see games that are 42-41. We don't want to see 10-3 games, right? The consumer doesn't want to see that. The consumer doesn't want to see 75-62 with 3 minutes left in the game. Like, we don't want to see that. We want to see dunks. We want to see as close to the All-Star game as we can, but a lot more competition.
Yeah.
Right? And I hate people that say, oh, I don't want to watch the All-Star game. It's no defense. Who cares? You're watching guys at the top of their craft being able to just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They can go up and slam it. Nobody's playing defense. That's great. I don't care. I want to watch it.
But that fourth quarter, though.
The fourth quarter, all of a sudden the clamps turn on, and then you see the best players in the world do what they do best. But it's a game for our entertainment. Why does everything have to be defense, stakes? We have to make sure that we're getting stops. Like, stop it.
Those are the purists.
Those are the old people.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Those are the old people because the next generation is watching the NBA as an entertainment value, right? I feel like fans of the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s were there because their team. Now we've evolved from team to star power.
Yeah.
Right? I want to see what Kawhi does. I want to see what Jokic and Jamal Murray are doing. Like, I want to see Spider Mitchell. I want to see Kyrie, KD, Steph Curry. Like, that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Like, for as much, as people gave them crap, I loved watching the Warriors. Yeah. To me, watching the Warriors
beautiful basketball
was some of the best basketball that I've ever seen. And that's us talking about the big three and seeing them up, close and personal here in Miami.
Yeah.
But for me, and you play basketball with me, like, my thing is shooting. So, like, the technique, the footwork, the stuff that Klay Thompson does off a screen, the way that Steph Curry can just get a shot at any point and have everything squared up, that to me was fascinating. Yeah. So I love watching the technical aspects of basketball and making it fun. Like, I don't want to see defense. Yeah, defense to me doesn't do anything.
I do. I still want to see defense. Like, when my team is getting their behinds, like, kicked, I want them to lock down and clamp up. But to your point, so true. Although I will forever, I worked for the Heat. I have my rings. I enjoyed those 4 years like never before. But those Warriors teams, it was just different because we had to grind to get our points because we really didn't have. We had shooters.
Basketball was different too, though.
But it was different. It was a different the only guys that were shooting were like the specialists. Shane Battier, Ray Allen,
Mike Miller,
Rashard Lewis, Mike Miller. Like LeBron and Wade, really, unless they were hot, they were not gonna let it fly. Like, now you see LeBron putting up 6 to 8 threes a game. The game was totally different.
From deep too.
From the logo. But we see the Warriors, and they had a down year because of injuries. But they're gonna come back.
Oh, for sure.
They've
got a top 5
and they
pick,
have a top 5
pick or whatever it is.
So, Draymond, you got Steph, you got Klay, you got Wiggins, who's don't sleep on this guy. Yeah. He was a top pick for a reason. All these cats with a young guy coming in, they're gonna be a problem next year.
Of course.
The way that they just play, it's so free flowing, so beautiful. I love that style of play.
So getting back to Denver and Utah.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray is turning into a certified star.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a game where somebody who has been flying under the radar for so low come onto the scene in a playoff series like this and just be like, hey, I'm here and I'm scoring 40, 50 points in a game, and you can't stop me. It was the game before the shutdown, and I have a lot of thoughts on the boycotts and stuff, which we'll get to in a second. What was it, Game 5 when they because it was 3-1.
3-1. Game 5. Game 5. He took over.
He had 26 points in a matter of like 10 minutes,
and it looked easy.
And it looked effortless.
Yeah.
And obviously he's got a lot of good players around him, and Jokic is probably the best complementary player in the NBA.
I
don't know if there's anybody that has such a rounded skill set for the size that he does. Right?
Yeah.
If he was, and he's slimmed down, but if he was 20 or 30 pounds lighter, are we talking about Jokic being a Giannis mold guy that is that big that can do everything? Not in the same vein,
mold, but I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean. Like,
he fits on any team you put him on, he'll fit.
He's a guy that has the offensive, skill set to fit other people around him. And Jamal Murray, for me, like, it's always been like, okay, like, he's good. I know he's good, but he's really taken the next step to this guy can get buckets on anybody, and he showed it. Defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert, it doesn't matter. Like, here's a reverse layup. You're going to try to block it. I'm going to go reverse.
You ain't going to do nothing with that. Yeah.
Spider Mitchell, here's a 1-2 step back that I'm going to hit from 17 feet away, fading away, and it's good. It's like,
leave it. Yeah, he's just.
And again, Donovan Mitchell on the other side, another guy who's really coming into his own. And a couple years ago when he had that whole thing versus Ben Simmons for Rookie of the Year, like, oh, I'm the real Rookie of the Year, no, Ben Simmons, whatever. He was good. And then last year he just kind of had that sophomore slump and a down year. But this year, like, it just goes to show you the NBA's in good hands.
Oh, yeah.
When this generation of LeBron and Kawhi and Paul George, like that era moves on, we're gonna have a lot of nice players because it always takes something to break through, right? The generational ceiling of LeBron has the crown and it's his league.
Yeah.
Who's that next player to come up and it be their league? It's gonna be Giannis, right? Like I don't think
it's Giannis.
I don't think there's
Giannis.
Anybody else that can do that.
No.
But when you look around the league, Jason Tatum, Giannis, Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell, and I'm missing guys because there's a ton of other guys.
There's a ton of them.
But that to me has been one of the most exciting series to watch in these playoffs, just because the matchup of two young potential stars.
We haven't really seen that in
Right.
a series lately.
Right. Well, like, what's the last one that you've seen and you've looked at and been like, wow,
young guys?
I love this matchup between two guys that in the next 10 years are going to be running the league.
Man, I can't even think of it. Like two
Right?
young cats. Like usually you'll see like the older guy and then the younger guy. Like we saw that with D Wade, that 2005 playoffs where everyone knew he was good. He was a sophomore, but he just took over. But again, he was going against established teams already.
Right.
If we're going young guy against young guy, I can't recall.
Because
usually young guys don't make it so quick.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Doncic, he's going against two established guys. And that guy,
let's get to Doncic for a second because when they got him, when the Mavericks got him, I was like, okay, this is a team that has the power structure and the longevity with Dirk to make European guys work in the system. Because how many times have we seen European guys go to other teams and not really find their footing and be the dominant players that they were either in Europe or they could have been here in the NBA? And watching Doncic, I knew from the jump he was a can't miss. Just the way that he was able to be a pro at such a young level in the second best league in the world.
Yeah.
Right, in Spanish
Spain.
league.
Yeah.
There is no other league that's better than that league other than the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
For him to be at 13. Like, remember what we were doing at 13? Because we were playing basketball together.
We're just trying to make it a varsity in 8th grade or something like that.
He was winning championships against grown-ass men that are our age back then, right?
Like that,
29, 30 years old, and this is a kid 15 years old giving you buckets. So Doncic to me was the second coming of a Larry Bird, of a throwback player that can really do everything. Yeah. I love watching him play. Like there is nobody more exciting than him.
I would agree with that. I think he's the most exciting player to watch, and I'll tell you a few things. I always knew he was going to be good. People would always look at his stats in Spain, and I never go by the European stats because it's a different style of play. But about 3 years ago, when Goran Dragic was like killing it, he was doing amazing. They're like, "Oh, would you consider yourself the best Slovenian player of all time?" And he's like, "No, there's this kid who's at the time was like 17.
Right.
He's gonna be the." And people are like, "The kid that's averaging 12 points a game." He's like, "You'll see." So 3 years ago, I've been watching his stuff, and I started noticing like his game. It was different. Mm-hmm. He wasn't the fastest. He's not the most athletic. I mean, we see that.
Right.
But his feel for the game, I have never seen that. I would consider the guy that had the best feel for the game at all time, in my opinion, was Larry Bird. And it's not because I'm comparing them because they're both white. It has nothing to do with that. The feel that guy had for the game was just amazing.
Being ready from the jump.
I mean, I would consider that the equivalent, right? And the moves that he was making at that age, 16, 17 years old, I was like, oh, this guy, if he ever decides to come to the league, he's going to impact this game like never before. I mean, I have never seen anyone, not even LeBron, humiliate Paul George and Kawhi the way that this kid has. I've never seen that. Like 21. LeBron will power his way and score on them. He makes tough shots. This kid will like make Paul George look like a college kid that's in his first season. He's doing things to Kawhi. Yes, he's using a screen sometimes and getting away, but he's doing things humiliating world-class players that I've never seen before. With the pace that he plays with and the joy that he plays with and the confidence, like to me, he's up there with Giannis as to the guys that will hold that torch for 100%. The next 10, 15 years.
100%. I don't know if I've seen a craftier player.
Yeah.
That young, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you think of crafty, my number one crafty player is James Harden.
Yeah.
Even though he can knock down the three and he can do other things, the way that he can contort his body. He's a guy that's built like me, right? A little bit of a belly, like 6'5". He can just kind of like do things, but yet he'll dribble 18 times between your legs and then go up and score, right? You know what I mean? So you're sitting there saying, how does this guy do it? He comes from the same mold of the Paul Pierce, of the James Harden, of the guys that don't look like they're supposed to be in the NBA,
but they're giving
but
you
then
buckets.
all of a sudden cross you up and hit a J, and you're like, well, wasn't expecting that, right? And I love watching Luka because he is the personification of what we feel that an average guy would look like in the NBA, right? He's just 6'8".
Yeah.
He happens to be much bigger and much better than everybody else.
Yeah.
But if you were to put a guy who looks like an average Joe, it's Luka.
Yeah.
He sits out there. He's kind of normal build. He's not super shredded. He's not this guy that's like a huge guy that's just going to do everything. Yeah. He's a normal dude. And that's why I love watching normal guys with dad bods just be better than everybody.
Who's your all-time dad bod player, man?
It was Jokic.
Jokic?
But now he's slimmed down.
Now he's got the sexy slim going on.
James Harden, Paul Pierce, guys that I grew up watching. Like Paul Pierce influenced my game a lot.
Yeah.
Because he was somebody that I saw as something that I wanted to be, because I knew I wasn't the fastest. I knew I wasn't this. I knew it wasn't that. But I knew how to get to spots before other people.
Yeah.
Whether that be with the spin move, whether it be with an in and out, whether it be with I'm going to pump fake you, get you up, and I'm going to go under, whether it be I'm just going to pull up higher than you because I can do it quicker.
Yeah.
Like he influenced my game. So, and then he kind of looked like just an average guy.
Yeah.
Like that to me is like, I'd say power ranking of dad bod scorers and dad bod athletes. Paul Pierce.
Yeah.
James Harden, Luka Doncic.
Luka.
And Jokic rounding out the four.
I have a sleeper in there, bro.
Okay.
Now, I'm counting his international stats as well, because if we're going international, he's a Hall of Famer. Arvydas Sabonis.
Yeah. But he had like the post-Soviet era. He had like the post-Soviet era dad who was an immigrant into the United States and was like really tough on his kids.
Yeah.
That's what really Arvydas Sabonis looks like.
Like he looks at the report card and he's like, not enough.
Chest hair, cigarette, like this is not good, right? Post-Soviet era, like that's what I think of when I think of Arvydas Sabonis.
That's perfect. I couldn't have said that better myself, man. He's definitely one of those guys. I can't think of anyone else.
Peja Stojakovic, another guy who's kind of
later in his years, like when he was with the Mavs. Yeah, he can get you buckets though.
Dirk Nowitzki.
Dirk, yeah, his whole career.
Dirk is kind of average-looking guy.
Yeah.
Tim Duncan, never really
He never ripped. Tim Duncan's another one. The best power forward of all time.
Timmy Hardaway with the Heat. Dad bod.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Really? I've seen pictures of him. He was pretty shredded those first few years. Later
I'm saying like
when he started getting hurt.
Something.
Okay.
I'm saying 2001,
yeah, when he was getting hurt. Okay.
Early 2000s, Timmy was a little bit more dad bod, but it's a league that you need to be shredded.
You have to be.
Right?
You have to be.
You can't be just walking around as like a normal person. If you are, you have to be really good at a certain thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to be a spot-up shooter where you can just sit in the corner and just, knock down threes. You have to be a big guy where you can do something.
Or just rebound on people. Like, who's this guy? I'm trying to remember. You remember Corliss Williamson?
Yeah.
He was one of those 6'7", undersized, dad bod, I would say. But nobody, like on the offensive boards, like that guy was a monster.
It's like a Theo Ratliff. Theo Ratliff for the 76ers. Just like a guy that was,
Theo Ratliff.
In this NBA could not exist.
No, yeah,
right?
Theo wouldn't.
Guys that were such special, like, you can argue that, he would be able to exist in this NBA. Dennis Rodman.
I think so.
He would be able to.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's just because he's the best at what he did, probably of all time.
Yeah.
Also, the best
the training was
rebounder.
Different. The training is
Of course.
He might have a mid-range shot now.
Maybe. But the way that the NBA is, like, you need to be able to shoot.
Yeah.
If you're not out shooting on the floor, you're a liability offensively. You're playing 4-on-5.
Look at Patrick Beverley. The only reason I feel he was cut, remember that first year when LeBron was in Miami, they had the option between him and Carlos Arroyo.
Yeah.
And they said, let's go with Carlos Arroyo because he could shoot.
Right.
And Patrick Beverley now is hitting 35-36% from three for the Clippers. So you have to evolve or die, when it comes to the sport. And speaking, we were talking about like the body fat and all that kind of stuff, right? Like this is a sport where you need. It's not like baseball where you can have a beer gut and be a first baseman and pull
you
your
just hit
hamstring.
bombs.
Yeah,
right?
bombs
like
all day.
I'm Big Papi. I'm just standing back there. I'm 285, but I'm gonna hit 400-foot rocket shots. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'll be DH.
I'll try. I'll just try to run the base. I don't have to run. But
right.
The Heat, we know that there's something different about them. People call it the culture. From working there, I mean, I saw it. I've heard stories of Pat Riley literally. Like, I don't know if you remember Todd Day. You remember Todd Day? He literally, in the middle of the contract, like, he just traded him. Like, because he wasn't working hard and different things like that. I've heard of guys being at 8% body fat, which is amazing for the average human being. But guys were literally being sat because that's not low enough, that their standards are a little bit higher. And we see that with these guys. Like, these guys are some dogs. Like, not other than Jimmy and Dragic, because he's been an all-star. Now Bam is getting known. These guys are just killing people. They're tenacious. I didn't expect it. And this is my team. I didn't expect them to sweep Indiana like that.
Right.
What are some things that you've been noticing about them, man?
It's crazy because this is, and we've talked about it on with different people that I'm in tune with. This has been one of the best passing teams in the NBA and in Heat history. Like,
yeah.
I think it was game 1 or 2. I think game 1.
Game 1, yeah.
Where the passing was just boom, next pass, open man, shot. And it's like, well, there were 6 passes before we had a shot. And what's the thing that we always talk about, whether you're a coach, whether you play pickup, move the ball, not one shot and go. And what their specialty is, and it's becoming, is being able to find the open man and make the extra pass, right? Like that's a big thing in the NBA is if you get an open shot, more than likely it's going to go in.
Yeah.
The key is just getting more open shots than the next guy. And when you're the Miami Heat and you're able to dump, into Bam, all of a sudden he kicks back out, none to somebody else, hero to somebody else, drive baseline, Dragic, out to Duncan Robinson, and the defense is nowhere to be found. It's easy for him to just go up and shoot. And like that's one of the things that I've seen, at least in the series against Indiana, is that their ball movement was incredible.
Yeah.
They don't have a team that is going to wow you with star power, right? No. Jimmy, Dragic, Bam now to a certain degree. But there's no okay, like I say this hesitantly.
Yeah.
There's no alpha male dog that's going to win you a game on that team, in my opinion.
You mean like that's just going to go ahead and get you buckets?
It's not Kawhi Leonard. There is not a Luka Doncic. There is not a James Harden. There is not somebody offensively that's going to say, "Don't worry, 2 minutes left, give me the ball. I'm going to score 8 straight points, and we're going to win this game."
Jimmy used to be that way.
Jimmy did that, right? Like he did that in game 2 or 3
with free throws, though.
Right, but that's the one thing that I see missing from this Heat team. The way that they make up with it is that they're a collective better, right? Like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero's come to his zone in this series, was hitting big shots late in games. Yeah, where all of a sudden you see him dribbling, and you're like, okay, what is he gonna do? He pulls up, hits a dagger jump shot, and you're like, okay, the little scoop right hand layup.
Dude, that was nice.
Like
these I'll tell you what though. These guys that are like, for example, we talked earlier about Jamal Murray. We talked about Spider Mitchell. This is really their 4th year.
Yeah.
Because those 3 or 4 months of quarantine, they really got to work on their game. And that's what I see with Tyler, is this is really his 2nd year, his 2nd go-around. And when you have that confidence, and that's what I like about the Heat, where he's a rookie, but they're giving him that confidence. It reminds me of like D-Wade, his rookie year, where it's like, yeah, we have Lamar Odom, yeah, we have Caron Butler, but you know what? Like, there's something special about you.
Like, this guy's good, right.
There's something special about you. Let's cultivate that. And you talked about earlier Dallas as well, of how they really cultivate their European players.
Right.
When you have somebody that confides in you and believes in you, that really just shoots your confidence level up.
For sure.
And that's why we're seeing like this kid, when the game's getting tight, he's just meandering around the screen and doing a step back where you're like, what the? Like, normally you'd be like, who is this guy? Like, where you bench him?
Right.
But he's making those shots, and it's because of that confidence. And when you breed that, like, come on now.
Right. It allows you to be the best, version of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the Heat have an interesting advantage is that, and again, not to sound cliche, but they play as a team.
Yeah.
Right? This is a team that, because of the deficit of that one true alpha male superstar that they have that can just take the game over and do what he wants, they have to revert back to, okay, we need to play as a team because if we don't, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we need to have Bam doing what he does. We need to have Tyler Hero doing what he does. We need Duncan Robinson. For as much as a guy who is an afterthought, right, throughout his entire career, is a guy that spaces the floor the best probably in the NBA right now.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if there's anybody better.
No, nobody. No, spacing the floor. No, nobody.
Like the way that he's able to hit open shots, hit contested shots, and spread the floor and play like almost a two-man game. Like it's really changed the dynamic of what the Heat can do. And I'm gonna be interested. Obviously, Milwaukee's gonna get through the Magic.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what he can do against the length that Milwaukee has, the defensive energy that Milwaukee brings, because to me they're probably the best defensive team in the NBA. For as much size as they have, as much length as they have, Giannis by himself covers half the court. You know what I mean?
I would say this though, Ant. Like, yes, against any other team, the only team in the East that scares me as a Heat fan is Boston, and I'll tell you why. We don't match well against them. We don't match up well against them. When we have that starting lineup go out, the only really perimeter defender we have at one time is Jimmy.
Right.
And they have 3 guys.
Right.
They have Kemba, who has always been a Heat killer. They have Jaylen Brown, who
is nice.
He's the most efficient Celtic player. You have Gordon Hayward. Well, now he's out with the injury, but you have Jason Tatum, who that kid is amazing.
Marcus Smart too, who's a dog.
I mean, I'm not worried about him on offense, but on defense.
Right? You're talking just saying
defensively.
Yeah.
Defensively, he's a pest.
Right.
I think he's the best on-ball defender in the NBA.
Better than Patrick Beverley?
Yes, because Patrick Beverley's a lot of rah-rah.
He is, but that also works to his advantage.
But he's a bit older now too. So maybe 3 years ago I'd say give you a different answer. But Marcus Smart just does so much off the ball as well, like his communication. And he's a little bit bigger than Patrick Beverley too. But the Heat, that's the only team that scares me. I think we have the edge on Toronto, and I think we also would have the edge on Milwaukee, because you give Spo some time to and this is not a new thing. The past 3 seasons we've given them some issues.
Yeah, but it's different in a 7-game series.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
100%.
Like the 76ers of old gave the Heat problems. The Brooklyn Nets of old gave the Heat problems. They did, but they gave the Heat problems in the regular season enough for their fan base to say, you know what? We could take down the big 3, no big deal. And I feel like that's what the Heat fan has in the back of their mind, like, we're good. We're cocky Heat fans back. You know what? Bam can neutralize Giannis. Who else is there? Brook Lopez? Who cares? Duncan Robinson will take him on the 3, and you don't have to worry about it. Even though Chris Middleton's a problem. Yeah. Even though Bledsoe is a problem. Like, there's guys that are really good on that team, and they're a very deep team. Like,
I'll tell you this.
There's a reason, Gio. There's a reason why they're the number 1 overall seed. There's a reason why they're a historically good defensive team. Like, Budenholzer's an amazing coach. There's a reason.
No, 100%. But to me, they're the 2009-2010 Cleveland Cavaliers. That's what they are to me. They're the 2009-2010 Cleveland Cavaliers. Same framework, great coach, similar records, similar style of play. But in the playoffs, teams can hone in on that. And the reason I say that I think that he can take them is because I feel like there's another level Jimmy hasn't gotten to as a Heat player yet. And I do think something's up with him. Like, if you look at the way he used to score before and the way he's scoring now, it's completely different. He's getting to the line at the highest percentage of anyone, like with the percentage of their points. But he's just not – I think that injury he had last year in the playoffs is more serious than he's letting on with the wrist.
And now the shoulder, too.
But I still think there's another level that he can get to. And that's what I see. That I just have a gut feeling, man, that we can take them. I don't think it'll be easy, but I think
you're saying what, 6 or 7?
I'll say 6.
Really? Yeah. Heat and 6.
Yeah, I know it's a hot take. It's a bold take, but I think honestly, if we were to play Boston, I hope Toronto wins. And I'll tell you why.
Toronto's been one of the best teams in the bubble, and nobody's talked about them
in the past 2.5 years. I just think they're disrespected because they're in Canada and people don't see them as much.
Yeah, that too. And they lost Kawhi too.
They lost Kawhi, but that team
they
play
Drake,
just as they have Drake. They play just as together as the Heat do. But listen, man,
Van Vliet's a problem.
Van Vliet is that guy's a
Pascal
dog,
Siakam
man.
Is one of the next. We talk about that collection.
Oh yeah,
of young
he's up there.
He's one of the next.
He's
superstars.
up there too.
Kyle Lowry, for as much I've never been a Kyle Lowry guy.
Me neither, but
he's a guy that can get things done, and
he'll win you a game. By himself.
The thing is, the rap was always him and DeMar DeRozan can't get out of the second round.
I guess the problem was in Kyle.
Well, they also had Kawhi Leonard to fill in for DeMar DeRozan, so that kind of helped a little bit and buoyed Kyle Lowry.
How bad must DeMar feel now? That sucks, huh?
Is there like a, But I think Toronto is getting slept on a lot. I think they'll beat Boston. I think it'll be Toronto and Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
I'll take that.
A rematch of last year.
Yeah.
No Kawhi, and it gives the opportunity for Giannis to take that next step. And I think what he needs to do, and he's had obviously another MVP season. Yeah. But this is, and Philadelphia did it a little bit because they have the size to do it. Toronto has the size to do it with their front court. Basically build a wall at the semicircle in the paint and say, Giannis, you want to beat us?
Shoot.
17-foot jumper. Take it. Hit it.
With the Spurs did to LeBron. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, once he takes his game to that level,
then it's a
where he's hitting consistent 17-foot jump shots where somebody's playing 3 feet off him saying, all right, shoot. And he can rise up and shoot on people. Like, that's when we'll see, okay, what's the ceiling for Giannis now that he has that in his bag? Because right now he doesn't have it.
And he's still dominating.
He's just dunking on people from 17 feet away. Right? The 17-foot jump shot is just actually a 17-foot dunk.
It's the Space Jam.
Exactly.
It's the actual
Jordan.
Space Jam.
You know, like, that's what he's doing. How old is Giannis?
26, I think now. 26.
Like,
it's crazy.
Like, he still has 10 years. Because LeBron's what?
35 now. Wow.
35, turning 36. Like, he still has 10 years of prime to be, okay, if I can develop a jump shot, I could be one of the best players of all time just because nobody's ever seen a 7-foot freak like this.
Speaking of jump shots, when is Ben Simmons going to shoot, man?
I'm tired of hearing Ben Simmons.
I'm tired. Aren't you? Right?
I'm tired of hearing. I hate that he got hurt. I think he's a really good player, but I'm tired of hearing about him being able to shoot.
Rondo.
Like, I'm done. Like, when he came out of Australia into LSU, I thought he was going to be the next coming of LeBron.
Dude,
right?
He was dominating in college.
It was like, oh my God, this guy, we've never seen anybody like this since LeBron.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get to the NBA and you can't shoot. And we knew the MO was he can't shoot, right? He's going to try to take everything to the basket. He's got that lefty thing so he can get to the basket at different angles.
It's been 4 or 5 years now.
Bro, like, at what point do you get a jump shot? And if you're never going to get a jump shot, fine. But the problem is this NBA, you need a jump shot to be successful.
Not even a jump shot, but just shoot the ball. Like, I want to see a floater from him or a fadeaway or something. Like, different. It doesn't have to be a long range or even a mid range. Just get close to, you know what I mean? Like, if you're supposed to be an all-star or a superstar and you're averaging 9 shots a game, like, I find issues with that.
It's 2020.
Yeah.
Like, your point guard needs to score.
Yeah, he needs to. Yeah.
Think of Damian Lillard. Think of Damian Lillard taking 9 shots. We haven't talked about him, by the way.
In the first quarter.
Think about Damian Lillard taking 9 shots for a game. You would say they cut off both of his arms, and he still got 9 shots up.
Yeah.
Think of it. Like,
he threw it off his head.
He did something, and he got 9 shots up, but they cut his arms off at halftime. Like, he can't do anything. Like, that's what we're seeing with Ben Simmons. Like, they put together, Hinkie and everybody put a blueprint in place to have a team that could be successful for 10 years. Embiid was a good pick. He's Embiid. He's going to get hurt.
He just needs to be in better shape. That's all that's missing. He just needs to be in better shape.
He needs to be somewhere else.
Yeah, Miami.
Maybe.
Yeah. We'll see.
But with him, with Ben Simmons, like, that's a core that can work. The problem is both of them seem to – I don't know if it's they don't like each other. To be honest, like, I don't know. And I'm speculating recklessly, right? Yeah. I don't know if it's that they don't like each other. I don't know if it's they don't mix well together. I will say this. When you have a point guard that is predominantly getting his points in the paint, and then you have a big that predominantly gets his points in the paint.
Not a good fit.
There's not enough paint for everybody. And then that's turned, and what you want is your point guard to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go out and take jumpers from 17 feet and back into the three-point line, and your big says, all right, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to work the high elbow. I'm going to work the low block. The problem is with Philly is that they've gone opposite.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons says, I'm going to take everything to the hoop. And Embiid's like, I'm going to take threes now. Is that okay with everybody? Cool? All right, perfect. I'm going to go shoot 14 threes a game. Like, that's where the divergence in Philly has gone. And that's why Brett Bond's not there anymore.
Listen, last year they had a great shot. They had the shooters.
They were a couple bounces away from
being maybe in the finals.
Right.
You know? And I think they would have given Golden State a nice run. But, again, when you don't have shooting, they didn't bring any of their shooters back.
J.J. Redick, how do you not bring J.J. Redick back?
Only a top 10 shooter of all time. Like, how do you not bring that guy back?
There's a lot of mistakes that Philly did, which is what put them in the predicament to be swept. You know, and obviously
and they lose to Boston all the time.
Right.
So let's go out west. The West has been really intriguing. even Portland sneaking into the playoffs, which I didn't think was going to happen. But Damian Lillard said, like, just get on my
team
back.
on his back, yeah.
Like, I've never seen a guy under 6'2" or 6'2" or under or shorter than that just take over like that. Like Iverson, yes, he would do it, but not like this. And what I mean by not like this is just pulling up from everywhere. Dame will get you 11 assists. He'll get you 9 rebounds. AI was more of like, let me get you some buckets.
Right.
And put my life on the line.
Eric Snow's going to give you the assists.
Eric Snow will get you. Yeah, Eric Snow will take care of everything.
Theo Ratliff will get the rebounds. Keith Van Horn will sit on the bench.
Yeah, Mutombo will get the blocks. But, like, Lillard is just on another level. Unfortunately, it sucks to see him get hurt. But, what are you seeing out west, man? What do you think about the Western Conference?
It's obviously Battle of LA.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know if, as much as we talked up Jazz, Nuggets, they're not ready.
Nah.
The Mavericks basically punted on the season. They're done.
Yeah.
Right? They started boycotting early.
Yeah.
The night before they got beat by 75 points.
Porzingis
now,
also.
Meniscus tear. He's going to be out for the rest of the thing.
He's a new trainer, man.
He's the thing is, and I'm not going to spend too much longer on his specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
He could be a Giannis type player where we look at him and be like, this is a guy that is incredible, right?
Yeah.
Like the Knicks nailed that draft pick. The problem
Mm-hmm.
is when you're that frame, you're susceptible to a lot of stuff that people that are smaller and built different aren't, right? And that's just anatomy.
That's anatomy, yes, but it's also, I have an issue with NBA players that are getting non-contact injuries and are training with someone that's a trainer. As you know, that's what I do for a living. We can't avoid freak injuries. Damian Lillard,
Derrick Rose,
freak injuries. Well, Derrick Rose, a few of them could have been avoided, in my opinion.
The first ACL tear that when he went up and he kind of like buckled or whatever, which is what led to everything else.
Exactly. I do feel like if there's a contact injury, like Damian Lillard with the finger,
somebody getting rolled up,
Oladipo stepping on someone's ankle, those are things that okay. But if you have a non-contact injury where you're just like you're literally jumping up and you land on both feet and something buckles, I think that's something wrong with your training. I really do feel like these guys should be doing better research on who their trainers are and what these trainers, like their history, like making sure, okay, this guy got, he has these clients. Okay,
and they're doing
this.
Right.
It's working. Let me go there. That's just my opinion on that. But I mean, I think that they could have given the Clippers a run for their money. They would not have beaten them.
They could have stretched to 6 or 7.
But they could have stretched it to about 6 or 7. I think they're going to be done now after that. But for sure, like you said, Battle of LA, this is what I hope happens, right? I would love for my Heat to win. I don't think that's going to happen. And I would love for LeBron to get his 4th ring. But I don't think that's going to happen because he doesn't have enough firepower.
Yeah.
I don't think he has enough shooting to beat the deepest team that I have seen in years. Where you can literally look back and they have 14 guys that have started in the NBA.
Right.
Like the last guy on their bench has started an NBA game. Like we see Magruder, who was our starting small forward for 2 seasons. He's like the 12th guy on that bench.
Right. He almost doesn't even suit up some games.
Yeah.
He's in the back with a jumpsuit on.
Joakim Noah. I mean, Defensive Player of the Year. He's like the 15th guy. You know what I mean?
About that. He's still getting paid by the Knicks, by the way.
Are you serious?
I think so.
So was he an amnesty player?
I think so. I think they just said, you know what?
Get out of here.
Just leave. They're giving him $75 million. Okay,
Yeah.
Think about that.
And he was older already.
And he was already done. He was already gassed with the Bulls.
Yeah.
And the Knicks gave him 5 for 75, and then said, you know what? Get out of here. And then he went and go like
Tibbs.
He had like that bleach, sun bleach in his hair, bleach beard, whatever. I will say this, and I've thought it since the beginning of this year, 2019 into 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers roster construction has been a land of misfit toys because LeBron thinks that he can plug in a certain formula that he had with the Heat, and he's been trying to replicate it.
100%.
So he's like, okay, if I get a playmaker next to me, Anthony Davis, a scorer, if I can get a couple of shooters, if I can get people that know how to win, quote unquote, Danny Green, NBA champion, right? Rajon Rondo, NBA champion, Dwight Howard, NBA finalist.
Yeah.
You know, like guys that have been there before. And it's not working.
Yeah.
Because I would argue that LeBron AD is the best duo in the league, but then the rest of the 12 to 13 guys on the team don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like the roster construction is just all over the place. I don't think that LeBron has it in the tank, and I don't think for as much as we like AD and for as much of a great player that he is,
something's missing.
He's missing a dog. That's
Yeah.
to me, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I can say that from here in Miami, 5,000 miles away,
Yeah.
and not even be close to the toenail of Anthony Davis's.
Oh, we'll never be like
success.
these cats. Yeah, we're not gonna.
But there is something missing in the fact that he doesn't have that mean streak.
Yeah.
Is that a byproduct of the era? Is that a byproduct of everybody's playing AU together, so there's no rivalries? There's no dog needed?
I don't think so.
There's
There's
no
a lot of
mean
dogs
streak?
out there. Look at the Heat, man. They just don't have that talent that those
Well,
guys do.
of course.
You know what I mean?
So I think for the Lakers, I think they're waiting on the inevitable that, they're marching towards the Clippers and the Clippers are just going to be like, look, that's great. You guys think you're really good.
But
if Paul George can get his act together,
which I think he will.
on the court, and he
think he
showed
will.
that last game, obviously
Yeah.
36, 5 and 4, whatever it was. And I know he's been dealing with stuff mentally in the bubble, and he's given voice to that anxiety and depression that probably a lot of people are feeling in the bubble. Imagine being constricted.
We felt that out here.
Right? Like, imagine being in a place where you can't leave, you can't see your family, you can't see the people that you have in your circle. You're 1,000 miles away from home, 3,000 miles away from home. Like, it wears on you. And then obviously everything that's been happening in this country, where you're playing a basketball game for 2 hours of your day, and then you have another 22 hours to kind of do whatever you want, be on social media, talk to people, read things, view videos, view too many videos too many times.
Be angry about the things that are going on.
Like, it lends itself to maybe get you a little distracted.
Yeah.
And we know Kawhi's a robot. He doesn't have
even have
feelings.
social media.
Like, he doesn't. I don't even know if he has a phone. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're ready to
I think they're
take
ready
the
to,
next step.
Yeah,
And I think Doc is the perfect coach,
perfect for that.
right?
team.
Like, I think that he's somebody that can speak through and to different people.
Yeah.
He can speak to Patrick Beverly and rein him in.
Yeah.
He can get Kawhi and give him his space. He can get Paul George ready for
Even
a game.
though he dated his daughter and cheated on her.
That's neither here nor there, right? That's neither here nor there. But like, to me, I think it's Clippers or bust in the Western Conference. I don't see anybody else being able to compete with the
It hurts
depth,
me to say
with
it.
the best player,
Yeah.
with the defense that they have. Like, I think it's Clippers in the West, and to me, I think it's Milwaukee in the East.
It hurts me to say it because I love LeBron, but at 35, I mean, I just don't like. I see him evolving. Like, he wants to be Magic. Like, the only way I see him possibly beating the Clippers is if he becomes 2018 or 2013 LeBron. And will that? Does he have that? Does he have that?
Pullback, yeah.
Does he have that in him left, or is he saving it for the Clippers? Like, I don't see it because I think he understands. He's like, I'm at a point in my career where I need to be
help.
Magic.
Right.
I need to be Magic.
The problem is with Magic, he had Kareem,
James Worthy, Byron Scott, like guys that
AC
were getting you
Green.
20.
like guys that were Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Not just Avery Bradley, who didn't make the trip.
Yeah.
Dwight Howard, Danny Green, Rajon Rondo. It's like, not those guys. Magic was Magic when he was able to be the facilitator and be the glue to Kareem giving you a skyhook or James Worthy dunking on your head.
Yeah. I don't think guys want to play with him anymore, though. I don't
Guys don't want to play with LeBron?
I don't think guys don't want to play with by guys I mean Kawhi, Paul George,
the secondary guys.
Jimmy Butler, guys like the second guy. I don't think guys want to play with him anymore.
So you're saying Paul George picked the Clippers instead of the Lakers because of the fact that he would rather team up with Kawhi than team up with LeBron?
Agreed. Yeah, 100%. I think so. I think the biggest reason why Anthony Davis went there is because they have the same agent. They have
Clutch Sports.
Clutch Sports. But I don't think those top guys want to play. They want to beat him because he's the face of the league. It's like, why do I want to join the – like, even when Dwayne Wade – when he joined with Dwayne Wade, Dwayne Wade was a different kind of guy because Dwayne Wade was secure in himself.
He had already won a championship.
He already won. He was secure. He's like, I'm helping this guy out.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to learn from me. So that's why I think it's different. I know that there was guys that did not want to play with him. You know, we follow guys and we know guys that are very well connected. And Kawhi, like, for example, Kawhi wanted to go ahead and pair up with Jimmy Butler first. Jimmy was like, nah, I want to do my own thing in Miami. Like, these guys want their own legacy. They don't want to be paired up with somebody else. So I think LeBron is just he casts such a large shadow, which is why for so many years people didn't want to go to play in Chicago because of Michael Jordan.
Right.
You know, and I think that's what's happening with LeBron too. Like, it's going to be hard for him to get that third guy unless it's like a trade. You know what I mean?
And still at this point, like,
He's older.
Yeah, he's older, one, and two, the way that free agency is playing out, like you're looking at the crop of free agents saying,
Yeah.
Like, do I want to overpay for somebody?
Victor Oladipo, who's coming off an injury.
Do I want to overpay for a Victor Oladipo? And it's like, well, not really, because he's not.
He's a great second guy.
He'd be an amazing third guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
right?
he'd be the best third guy in the league if he's on the Lakers.
For sure. But the problem is, can he get back to being Victor Oladipo? Right, pre quad tear.
I'll tell you what, and I have very good sources. Okay, the only way, in my opinion, that he can be who he was before is if he leaves the Pacers. The only way.
Good chances of that.
I think that'll happen. The only way, I can't say why. I know why, but I'd be very irresponsible for me to say as to why. I'll tell you after. But I know that the only way he'll return to who he was before is if he leaves the Pacers. That's the only way.
And he will. I think the writing's on the wall, especially, Nate McMillan being unjustly fired. Yeah. Not leaving, fired, straight up.
Let's talk about that before. Yeah, let's talk about that, man.
After 14 days, you get an extension. 14 days later, you end up fired. The only thing that tells me is that something happened between him and the front office.
Yeah.
I don't know if getting swept with your best player not being there, right, Sabonis, with your second best player, a shell of himself, with a guy that was okay, and then all of a sudden the bubble became, Mr. Bubble and TJ Warren.
Yeah.
He that was another roster that just doesn't make sense.
I actually, you know what? I like their roster.
Really?
I really like their roster, and I'll tell you why. You got Brogdon, who can switch between the 1 and the 2. He's amazing.
Did we forget about Brogdon? Because I totally forgot about Brogdon in Indiana. 100% forgot about him.
I didn't forget about him because he's always been nice.
And then I was like, oh, damn.
No.
That's right. Brogdon.
The thing is that I think we forgot about him because he wasn't on the Milwaukee anymore, which they've been winning every year. But you have a nice guy that can shuffle between the 1 and the 2. You have Oladipo, who's a proven all-star. You got Warren, who's always been nice, a 16-point-per-game guy, and this year he upped it at almost 20.
Right.
You got their best player, in my opinion, is Sabonis. The guy's a monster. He wasn't there.
How do you fault the coach for your best player not being there?
That's not his fault.
And then your other best player being injured.
Yeah.
And being a shell of himself. Like
Turner underperformed too, I think.
He did. He did. I was expecting him to take that next step and be that guy that can be like, okay, Miles Turner, like,
this guy's nice. Team USA.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's just a lot of, again, misfit pieces. Doug McDermott.
They just got a shooter to get a shooter.
TJ McDonald. Like,
you know who these guys that you're talking about are? Random scrub heat killers.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
They always kill the Heat. I think the Pacers, that's what they did. They got all the random scrub heat killers.
All right, bring them over here.
Bring them over here, yeah.
I thought it was an injustice, and it's upsetting.
I agree. I don't think that happens.
14 days, 2 weeks.
I think there was something that we're never going to know what happened. Because the guy, every year, like, they went to 7 against LeBron's Cavaliers, who went to the finals.
Right.
Last year, they didn't have Oladipo in the playoffs, so they lost to Boston, I think it was. They got swept by Boston. And every year, he's won there. And every
year they don't have anybody.
And yeah, exactly. He's a great coach. I think that was unjust. But hopefully he finds a nice landing spot later on. Maybe he goes to the Sixers.
One thing about the NBA and shuffling and the idea of, okay, I'm going to get rid of my coach either as a fan base or as a front office. I'm going to get rid of my coach and I'm going to try to find somebody better. Right? Like, everybody wants to find that next young coach, the next Nick Nurse, even though in 3 or 4 years, when all of a sudden the Raptors aren't the Raptors anymore, they're going to be calling for Nick Nurse to be out of there. Right?
Like the head. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that frustrates me about fan bases, about front office, is the lack of patience that they have with coaches. Like Nate McMillan is, I wouldn't put him in the top tier of coaches, but he's an NBA coach.
Oh yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
He's an NBA coach. He's not going to go out and win you a title, but the thing is, when you're Indiana, you need to have the awareness of your identity, right? You're not Reggie Miller's not walking through that door.
No.
You know what I mean? Mark Jackson's not walking through that door. Rick Smits is not walking through that door, as Amina Hassan would say, and play the open door game.
Yeah. Patino game.
The Patino game, exactly. Like, when you have a team that is a middling 4 to 7 seed in the East, you need to know who you are.
Yeah.
Right? And I get there's pressure from the front office to try and always be better, but let's be serious. The way that sports work is there's very few teams that are willing to put the money and invest the money and to get those players, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, college football, they're content making their money as
college
owners.
Football in there.
College football, like sliding that one to the middle of the table. They're content with just being good enough.
Yeah.
The Tennessee Titans, the Houston Texans, they're good with being 8-8.
Just make the playoffs.
Maybe win a division.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Unless you draft someone. That's the only way you're going to.
The Marlins are okay being bad. Right? Like the way that the redistribution is in the MLB, they're getting money for being bad.
Yeah.
Their operating costs are such where they don't pay a salary to get better players, but then they get money on the back end from the MLB because of TV deals, because of redistribution of money. So there's not always teams that are, and that's something that I've read in a bunch of different studies too, and like the tribalism of sports and the tribalism of fans, where fans think that their team always wants to win the championship. And it's like, no, your owner's content with just making the money and not really being a team that's contending for a championship.
It's an investment for them.
Exactly. This is a business at the end of the day. And if you're making $100, $200, $300, $400 million every year, what does it matter if Indiana won the NBA championship if I cleared $78 million this year?
Yeah.
What's the incentive for me to say, let me go out and give LeBron as much money as humanly possible within the salary cap to get him to Indiana? We know it's not going to happen. No. It's not going to work.
Yeah. I mean, that's when it comes to those middling teams, at the end of the day, you have to build what you can with what you have and pray that you can get – you can't hope for a free agent to get there and be that missing piece, but you can try to draft somebody.
They had him. Indiana had him.
They did.
They
Paul
had him.
George.
That's
Paul
it.
George. They had him.
Not only that, Kawhi Leonard. Remember, they traded Kawhi Leonard.
They did for George Hill. And listen, they had they were close. They were close, but LeBron said no. And you just got to rebuild again. Same thing with they had the team before. Michael Jordan said no.
Right.
So you got to be okay with being close. And if you're not, then I guess you got to find another team.
We skated from it long enough.
Yeah. Let's get to it. So
the boycott.
The boycott, yeah, man. So I want to touch upon that first. When the guys decided that they were not going to play, I was totally fine with it, and I'll tell you why. As a Hispanic African American, we have been marginalized for a very long time, forever, really. And at the end of the day, I don't think that not playing really did a huge difference. But I think not having a plan going forward will make a huge difference. Because we saw in other sports, we saw in soccer, we saw in baseball, they also did the same thing. They decided to boycott. But I think what now is going to happen is it brought awareness to what needs to change. And this year has been a lot about that. It's been a lot about change. And I think that now going forward, because these players put pressure and said, listen, I appreciate that you guys said you're going to pledge $300 million over the next 10 years. That's nice. But you guys have money. You have the resources. We don't just need the money. We need actual change to happen. We don't need a nice little program where you can just throw money and get a tax write-off. No, we need you guys to go in. Let's work on certain things that need to happen. Let's do scholarship funds for the kids. Let's go ahead and do let's get into legislation. Let's do things that really people have not talked about or maybe wanted to put it under the rug. Right. So I was okay. I was sad because I was like, man, the possibility of not having basketball again sucks because I love this sport. And it's been part of my life as far back as I can remember. But I understood the cause, and I do feel that if you're going to do that, though, you have to understand, okay, if we're going to boycott, we're going to boycott, but we might have a lockout next year. You're not going to get the same money that you got, so you have to be okay with the repercussions. CBA, right. Okay, you can't just say, oh, we're going to do this and not expect there to be repercussions. There's going to be repercussions, good or bad. I'm glad that they decided to go play because now they're going to continue to have that platform. There's a little things that I think are a little over the top. That's just my opinion. But I do support the cause, and I do understand that within reason, I'm all for it,
When we saw everything that happened with Jacob Blake, yet another televised murder from a police officer against an African-American, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
The perfect storm of, like I said, these guys being in a confined space of their hotel room for 17 hours a day, not playing basketball, not doing normal things, and having a TV and having Twitter and having Instagram and having social media and having all these things where they can just continue to pour in information.
Yeah.
And fuel the fire that they already have was a powder keg waiting to blow. Right?
Yeah.
Like this was the perfect storm for not the first one, now the second one.
Yeah, because
That's been a televised
yeah.
murder of a black man in front of the nation, in front of the world. The first one with George Floyd.
Well, luckily Jacob Blake is alive.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
In all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Because in any other case, 7 shots to the back at point blank range
It's a miracle he's alive.
is
It's a miracle.
death.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have that, it was imperative for the NBA to go ahead and make a statement, make a stand. And I'm glad that the Milwaukee Bucks, in their backyard, were able to say, you know what? It's not important. This right now is not important. It's
Which
bigger,
is not. It's not.
It's bigger than basketball.
It is.
The lives of marginalized people is more important. The conversation that we've been having that all of a sudden has been lessened because people are starting to get back to their normal lives. There's people not protesting in the streets like there were when everything was shut down. The fact that they came out and then, everybody in the NBA followed suit was encouraging to see. And there's a lot of suckers that were like, what does this solve? What does this prove? They should just play.
But that's the problem. That's exactly the problem.
Those people kind of don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't know you don't get it,
you don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of people that said, well, what does this prove? What does this solve? And it solves exactly what we're seeing now is that when the NBA decides that they want to make a stand and make a message, the world stops.
Mm-hmm.
Fox News keeps talking about it in one way. CNN talks about it in another way. You're getting the President of the United States commenting on it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this has tentacles in everything.
Everything.
So when they decide to do this, it was something where, okay, let's stop and talk about it now, right? Conversation is the first point of action, right? You have to figure out that there's a problem. Okay, let's talk about what we do to solve it. And I think investing in education, investing in legislation, investing in lobbying, because there's a lot of big money out there that is opposed to a lot of these different movements, right? And when you have the money to influence government and governmental agents, like, it's really easy to get your stuff, and not to get too political, but that's why the NRA can just go in and do whatever they want,
because they have the backing.
Because they got the backing of almost every Republican person in government. Say, yeah, I'll give you $50,000 here. You're going to support what I do.
I'll tell you this, Anthony.
And it's like, well, okay, sure.
You're right, and I'll tell you this, and this is my favorite thing about the whole ordeal. The NBA has been trying for months to make their arenas or stadiums, whatever people want to call them, polling locations.
Yeah.
And now this pushed it to the forefront where now it's official.
Now it's happening.
It's going to happen. In a way, I'm glad that happened, because now people were like, okay, we got to make this happen instead of, red tape and all these different things. What I love about that is, for so often we've heard of people complain about politics and complain about our country and everything like that, but they don't vote. Now those people that don't vote, they'll have the incentive because maybe they wouldn't be able to afford to go watch a game or go to an arena. But now that they're like, oh, wow, like I can go to the Dallas Mavericks or the Denver Nuggets arena to actually vote and see how the layout is, that might incentivize people to go vote, which is something that we desperately need in our country. People need to vote. I don't care if they're going to vote for one side or the other. Vote for whatever you believe in, but vote.
Right.
And I love that. That was probably my favorite thing, is that the NBA made something change.
But that was the most tangible action.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the one thing that came from this, that now in 30 cities, there's going to be a hell of a lot more people that are, and let's be honest for a second. Like, voter suppression is happening in this country.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's a reason why mailboxes are being taken out at a mass, in a mass number.
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about voting by mail. People don't want to go to the polls because of the pandemic. I get that. This is now opening the door for marginalized groups of people in low socioeconomic backgrounds to be able to go and vote. Because when you look at the numbers in those low socioeconomic background neighborhoods, there may be one polling place for thousands of people. Yep. And all of a sudden, November 3rd comes, and how are you supposed to vote when the line is from here down to Mary Brickell, right? There's 1,000 people in line, and you're going to wait in the Miami sun for 4 hours to press a couple buttons? People say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
I'm going to rather go home.
Yeah.
And that's how the powers that be suppress voting, right? Like, we don't go around saying, no, you can't vote, you can't vote, you can't vote.
Yeah.
What we do is just make it harder for you.
It's not intentional, but it is.
But it is, right. So now when you open AAA, think about the neighborhoods surrounding the AAA.
Downtown, Overtown,
Liberty
Alapata.
City. Like, all of those different places now have a place where they can go and they can stand in line and make their voice heard, right? One of the things that upsets me about this whole thing is we had the anniversary a couple days ago of the first time that Colin Kaepernick knelt
4 years already. Wow.
Police brutality, right?
Yeah.
And in 4 years, I can't believe we went from that to where we are now, where we have Black Lives Matter on the NBA court, where we have
I never thought that would ever gonna
the
happen.
move,
Yeah, it's
right?
crazy.
The paradigm shift that we've had from what we saw 4 years ago and the rhetoric and the hate that we've seen since to now where we are, where we have all these things and we're making progress in it. But the one beef I have is that Colin Kaepernick said that he didn't vote in the 2016 election. Right? Like, how can you be
you gotta vote.
The bearer of all this burden for people and yet not displace not display the civic duty that you have to vote one way or the other?
Even if it's a write-in vote. Even
Right.
if you
wanna
write
vote
in,
yourself.
Yeah, vote for yourself, do something. But that's
Right?
that's
Like-
the whole thing. Like, if you're gonna firmly believe in something and stand for it, take action.
Right. 100%.
And that's and we'll wrap things up now. But what I want, and the purpose of this podcast, I know we talked about a lot about sports, but at the end of the day, it's that, take action. Whether it be pursuit of a dream, whether it be pursuit of business, helping someone. I'm proud to say that this week, actually yesterday, my wife and I, we went ahead and we donated 50 backpacks and school supplies to an elementary school in Alapata.
Nice.
And I don't say that to like pat myself on the back, but I say that because we're taking action, and I'm proud of that we're taking action. And whether it be with a dream, whether it be with helping someone, whatever the case may be, that's what I want everyone that's watching this today. Take action, man. Go vote. Pursue your dreams. If you like that girl, ask her out, or vice versa. Whatever it is that you guys want to do, go for it. And man, my brother,
Always, man.
thank you so much for being on.
Of course.
We definitely got to keep doing these. I appreciate you guys for tuning in again. Anthony, just tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on social media at AC__305. We're doing a lot of cool stuff on the LeBatard show. We're doing a lot of cool stuff with Mystery Crate, which is a spin-off podcast on LeBatard and Friends Network.
Loving it, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. We're doing a lot of cool stuff there. Just excited to be part of the journey and part of the movement, man. Just want to be able to have people really get outside of their comfort zone and make their stuff that they can think of a reality, because that's what we're doing here, right? What you're doing, what I'm doing, like, this is it. We're two guys that probably shouldn't be where we are.
I know,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't be where we are, yet we made it with a lot of help from a lot of people. And we just want to be able to give back to the people that need to hear and need to get that push. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. Cool.